Hi, and welcome to Middle Class Film Class Podcast. I'm Peter.
I am Joseph.
And I'm Tyler.
And today, the Wheel of Destiny landed on my pick, Stoker.
India, come and say hello to your Uncle Charlie.
Hello, India.
I'm curious about what happened to my father.
You have no idea.
All right, well, I'm really excited to get your guys' take on this. I know neither of you have seen this, and this is a movie that I like to throw out to people as recommendations because it's kind of a weird one. But before all that, we got our streaming picks. So, Tyler, do you want to give us your streaming pick for the week?
Yes, my streaming pick for this week is The Game, starring 1997. And by the way, you all just lost. Just kidding.
Starring 1997. Oh, damn, The Game. We lost. Yeah, I lost. Damn it.
Damn it, Tyler.
But for real, the Game, made in 1997, starring Michael Douglas, directed by David Fincher. It's just a straight entertaining movie. And if you haven't seen it, you're really in for a treat, because it is a roller coaster of a film, beautifully shot, well acted, and I love Michael Douglas going through hell. Mm-hmm. He plays it so well. Have you guys seen The Game?
I have not seen The Game.
I need to rewatch it. I've seen it a long time ago before my
Oh, nice. If you don't remember it, then that's a good thing, because once you rewatch it, you're like, oh shit.
I remember the bit near the end when he finally gets kind of back home. No spoilers on this, but there's a gun involved, and he finally gets back home, and and I was like, oh, that's kind of a double cross. And I also remember him waking up in Mexico, and I thought, man, there's a few times where I thought about that scene when I thought, if I woke up in this foreign land I was in now, and I had no money and nothing to my name, would I be able to survive and make it back home, begging off of people's kindness or whatever?
Yeah, it's a good.
It's
a good head scratcher. It's a really fun ride. No animals die in this, and so
are there animals in this?
I don't. Maybe birds or something. I don't know. I just wanted to
birds in the background.
Because I was just harking on my last recommendation for The Thing, which I kind of realize now that recommendation, if you're not into animal deaths, you'll definitely. But this game doesn't have any animal deaths, so we're good.
I think we properly prepared our audience for what was to come in The Thing. Yeah. In regards to animal death.
True. So yeah.
I don't know if I prepared our audience for what they're supposed to be experiencing in Stoker, though.
No, not even myself. The Game, streaming on Netflix right now. So, Joseph, what is your streaming pick for this week?
My streaming pick for this week is also on Netflix. It is not a movie. It is a documentary series called Dark Tourist. And it is made by David Farrier, who also made a documentary in 2016 called Tickled, which I have
with an exclamation point.
I have yet to see.
It's great,
but it looks very interesting. And this is follows David Farrier as he travels to different parts of the world that are off the beaten path, as you could say, I suppose. For example, he goes to Brazil, and he I think
So voodoo shit?
No, there's some voodoo stuff in it.
There's voodoo, but not in Brazil.
It's what's his name? Not El Chapo, but
Anthony Bourdain.
Like a drug cartel. Pablo Escobar. So he goes and take the Pablo Escobar's personal hitman / bodyguard gives tours of the residence in which which Pablo Escobar lived, and he talks about everything that he did, and he has some sort of has simulations almost of like executions that he did while he worked for Pablo Escobar, and
with like real life actors.
Yeah, with like his people that works for him, and then he also has he's a YouTube sensation, I guess, and he's got
the Hitman.
Yeah, the Hitman. He's got a following. There's another episode where they take a tour of Jeffrey Dahmer.
I think I get where this mood of the show is going. It's like
they're the dark tourist destinations around the globe that you may want to go to, but you have to have a macabre desire.
Yeah, like going to like the Amityville Horror House or something like that, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, kind of a little bit more. There's like some there's a tour where they the JFK assassination. There's tours of like the roots of the JFK assassination. Like there's a guy who has the same exact vehicle that JFK was in when he was assassinated, and they drive. They take the exact same route.
I thought that would be like in some sort of like warehouse shit, like in Indiana Jones style.
No.
Pretty sure that was like a 57 Lincoln Continental convertible.
Yeah, and then there's another version of the tour where it's more of like a party bus. There's like two of these like beer bike kind of things, and they're like having a good time. They go out at night, and there's like music playing. They're like having a good time, but it's like about the JFK assassination.
Dude, that's awesome. I want to do that.
Yeah, and then there's like international stuff where he goes to Chernobyl.
They go into like a actual. You have to be like sign waivers that you're going into radiation. Zones still.
Yeah, they
have Geiger meters still like active to like determine what parts of the area that you're in have more radiation than the areas that you're in currently. It's a good show. I saw it a few years back.
It's it's really interesting, and I was from the first episode I was enthralled, and me and Deanna finished the season in like 2 days. It's only 8 episodes, but it's a really, really interesting travel show, and I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in shows about traveling. And this is sort of a different take on that genre of documentary.
If you like Guy Fieri, you'll love Dark Tourist.
Yeah, you like diner divers and dives.
Yeah. So Dark Tourist is on Netflix. Peter, what is your streaming pick?
Before I get to my streaming pick, I'm going to piggyback on what you said and tell people you should, if you have the ability to go watch Tickled, then you should absolutely go see it. It's got an exclamation point on the end, so you got to say it with oomph. Absolutely go see that. It is bananas, and I think that's probably what put David Ferrier on the map to the rest of the world, because he's an Australian journalist that kind of
New Zealand. He's a Kiwi.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. New Zealand, not Australian.
You could like make it like a sketch, like someone's like in a library or something. It's like, have you ever seen the documentary Tickled before?
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's about competitive tickling competitions.
Oh my god.
That they actually are a cover for some sort of like gay sex ring.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It is nuts.
I do really want to watch it, but I haven't gotten around to it.
I don't know where you can even find it, to be honest, but it is worth the watch. It's weirder and weirder, and after watching Tickled and Dark Tourist, I followed
Apparently it's on Hulu.
on Facebook. Oh really? Oh cool.
According to Just Watch, sometimes it's not that accurate, but
yeah,
according to it is on Hulu.
David Ferrier is a good person to follow on Facebook too, because he'll give periodic updates to some of his stories that he followed. So he gave updates to the guy from that documentary, and also from some of the places he went to during Dark Tourist.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of cool. You get a little follow up with if you follow him on social media, David Ferrier. All right, my streaming pick for this week is a classic that I feel like everyone in our audience has probably watched, and if you haven't, do it now. But I rewatched it recently, and it holds up big time. It's 1999's The Matrix.
Yes.
By the Wachowski brothers, now the Wachowski sisters.
I forgot about that.
Of Cloud Atlas fame. So the Matrix holds up big time. It's in the pantheon of movies that people take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
It's in its era. There was nothing like it. Everything had there were tons of movies that tried to be futuristic and groundbreaking, a la Hackers or Lawnmower Man.
I love Hackers.
I love Hackers too. The planet. Yeah. Acid burn. But it was I watched this in theaters with my older cousin Jeremy, who's like my brother, and he was 4 years older than me. He kind of was my shepherd into the nerd life, and we watched it in theaters, and it 100% blew my mind, my 13-year-old mind, or 12, or however old I was at the time. It was groundbreaking. It was revolutionary. It was a completely great spin and take on this, our reality is false idea.
Yeah.
But in a digital world, in the year 2000 or 1999, that was not a very widespread or prevalent concept. So it introduced that kind of idea to the masses, and it 100% holds up today.
Oh, I agree completely.
I love The Matrix. I mean, people give a lot of shit to the sequels, and they're, story-wise, you could say that they're not as polished as the first one, but they're very, very entertaining movies.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I still like the second number 2 and number 3.
I love Reloaded, and people really don't like the video game Mr. Smith fight scene with Neo in the park.
I thought that was cool.
But yeah, so as a kid, when I saw it, when it came out, and I saw it in theaters, I was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was the freeway scene with the twins.
Oh yeah, the ghost twins.
Yeah, and did you know that they built that freeway?
No shit.
The freeway is a set. The whole freeway is a set piece.
Yeah, it's not super long, but they reuse bits from it. But it is absolutely it's a freeway set piece with I think a green screen around it.
Yeah, it's a large
huge set piece.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I enjoy the fighting in those movies is awesome. Especially
very well choreographed.
Especially when it's like real, when it's like not CG.
Yeah.
When you can especially like the opening of Matrix Reloaded between the two agents, and I can't remember who they're fighting. Is it Neo they're fighting? Yeah.
I think so.
But like
it's hard to go ahead.
That like when the impact of the hands on the chest, and like you see all the dust flying, and the sound effects. I think that's really well done in my opinion. Yeah,
there was the choreography, dance / fight choreography. It's kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Was amazing. The CGI in just about every part except for the multiple Smiths was fantastic.
Yeah,
and even for the time though, it was still impressive.
Yeah, 100%. But anyways, it's streaming on Netflix right now. In 1999's The Matrix. I don't need to say anything more about it, but I would encourage our listening audience to give it a re-listen or rewatch. I don't think the sequels are on there.
They might be. I think they might be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure.
They just wanted to give you a taste. Just a taste.
So those are our streaming picks. You guys ready to get into the meat and potatoes?
Stoker.
I think so.
Stoker.
Stroker.
So this week we're diving into Stoker, 2013, directed by Wook Park, written by Wentworth Miller, whose name you probably won't recognize or see again. Maybe he seems like his credentials are not as robust as Wook Park.
Mm-hmm.
If you like this movie, you probably would enjoy Old Boy. He also directed Thirst and The Handmaiden, which is on my list that I missed from 2016. The Handmaiden.
Yeah.
Starring Mia Wasakowska as a 17-year-old India Stoker, Nicole Kidman as her mother, and Mathew Goode as her mysterious Uncle Charlie that she just met at the funeral for her father on her 17th birthday.
You mean Indiana Jones?
Yes.
India was just what her dad called her, but her Christian name is Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones Stoker.
Yeah.
I feel like naming your child India is something that like maybe a Korean person thought an American upper crust family would do. Yeah. But it is weird enough to be like a upper echelon bourgeoisie name your kids. So this movie's a total drama, family drama, kind of set in like I don't know what state it's supposed to be in, but I was kind of thinking Virginia,
I think
Connecticut,
it's Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, actually.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Does it say that anywhere?
It does.
In the on the letters.
Oh yeah.
Crawford,
right.
Pennsylvania.
At least that's where that he was.
Oh yeah, he was 2 states away though.
Oh,
so
okay.
they must be in the area
somewhere in there,
in the East Coast,
New England, northern kind of whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of touched on it before, but the intro to the movie it's India's 17th birthday, Mia Wasakowska, and she, on her 17th birthday, she gets the news that her father dies in a mysterious car crash 2 states away, and no one's quite sure why it happened or how it happened, but the catalyst to all of the drama is that at the funeral, they're having it in her home, and her mother has all the family over and all the friends and all these Republicans here at their house.
all these wasps.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely
White
wasps.
and Protestants. And she sees her uncle, played by Mathew Goode.
Ozymandias.
Charlie Stoker, Uncle Charlie. And he is attractive and well put together and confident. He makes direct eye contact for uncomfortably long amounts of time. And he's the only one at the funeral who's not wearing black. He's wearing a tan blazer.
It's a tan herring.
Tan herring?
Yeah, a tan herring, like a red herring, but tan.
Oh. But I mentioned it before in last week's when talking about this, but every shot is composed, or every scene has some beautiful composition that you can kind of pull 1 or 2, frames out of just about any scene that would be a beautiful landscape or a desktop background or something like that, because it's very well composed.
Yeah.
For sure, especially in the intro of the movie, like of her running through the forest and stuff. Like she stops at like the perfect spots. Like
it kind of reminded me of like a Lars von Trier intro.
Yeah, especially with the
just
camera like down low too, like by her legs.
Just not quite as stylized.
Yeah. It's if you are accustomed to Korean cinema, the movie is shot very much like a Korean movie. There's a lot of lingering shots on like wide open fields.
Yeah.
Dissolved transitions from like her brushing her mother's hair into the long grass.
That was smooth.
Yeah,
that was like when I saw that, I told Tyler, I was like, I bet you when the editor made this transition, I bet he stood up out of his chair and was like, oh,
that's the stuff. He's like, anybody see that?
Are
Yeah.
you guys watching this right now?
I'm earning that raise.
That's what I would do whenever I make like a seamless cut like that. It's like, oh yeah,
that's the stuff. There's a lot of that. There's the only one that didn't really work for me was when she's cutting breaking up the hard-boiled eggs, and she holds the egg up, and then it transitions to her eye. Yeah, there's a little bit of a stretch.
there was some questionable transitions in there. There was one where it was like she's like on the bus after the uncle is driving next to the bus, and then like it transitions into her like she's walking, but it's like she's like walking on the road.
Oh yeah,
and then the rest of it dissolves in. I'm like, oh, she's at home now.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that was interesting.
So what's your guys' first opinions on this? Neither of you have seen this before this week, right?
Yeah, I definitely have not seen this movie. For me, I really, really enjoyed this movie. It felt like every act was like a really good twist to keep you in. The dialogue is written really well, and that Mia Wasakowska, she's charming. She's a really charming actor. Like, even for someone who's trying to play the least charming person possible, like, it was like she she was a big part of scenes, even when she was so small in the frames.
Yeah, she's captivating for sure.
Yeah, I like the twists and turns. The dialogue was really well done. I don't know. What did you liked this movie, right, Joseph?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. I'm kind of warm on it. It wasn't anything I think spectacular, but there were some really good scenes in it, and the writing is really well written. There was some stuff that was just like kind of a questioning thing. Like, I just kind of like why why did they do that? Why, especially that one scene with Whip, the kid named Whip.
Oh yeah, Whip.
Another Korean's trying to put an American name out there.
Yeah, and I thought his demise, that whole scene, with him and Mia Wasakowska. Wachowski. When he like kind of turns like, oh, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then Mathew Goode, or Charlie, shows up, and he kind of saves her, I suppose.
Kind of, I guess. He knew what was going on the whole time. He was like watching this shit unfold.
Well, he was watching when she was getting bullied at school or beat up at school almost. He was watching from the distance just to let her make her own decisions.
Yeah. We don't know Whip that well. We don't know his character at all. He's in 2 scenes maybe.
Yeah.
And the move that he makes after he gets like tied up and thrown on the ground, and he trips her, and then he attacks her and tries to strangle her.
Yeah.
While while he knows this other guy is there, it just seems like pointless to do that. If you're gonna be overpowered, you're outnumbered, and there's no way you would succeed at whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that one decision from that character was the one plot device that didn't quite work 100%. I was definitely a slave to the need to put him in a position where he was going to get his meet his untimely demise from Uncle Charlie.
Yeah.
There was also this element that I thought was going to pan out, some sort of supernatural connection between Charlie and India.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
It seemed like there was some sort of mental connection somehow, with like telepathy. It seemed like that's how it was portrayed to me. I
missed that.
Thought about it.
What parts were leaning into that?
Just like, because in the beginning she has this monologue where she talks about she can hear things and see things that other people can't see, and then it seemed like he also can do that, because it seems like he always knows when she's around and looking at him, even though she's 2 stories up and looking down, and he's like working on the yard or something, and she can also hear him when he's talking to the Mrs. What's her name, McGarrick.
Yeah.
But I guess it came down to like she was just a good hunter and could channel her hunting abilities.
I think that the connection they were trying to make was that when she finds out that he's been in a mental institution this whole time, not traveling the world as he says, her whole childhood, and she finds all these letters that he's been incessantly writing to her. And he mentions multiple times in the letters that we share the same blood. And I think what happened is that Charlie got word that he has a niece. He has this young India, who's his older brother has birthed.
Yeah, that's what kind of got me too. I was just like, how did you know he had a niece?
Well, that Mrs. McGarrick was telling him, when they're arguing before he kills her, she's like, "I've been your eyes and ears. I've been your boots on the ground."
Yeah.
Oh.
And she's been. I think she has a soft spot for Charlie because she probably helped raise Charlie in one of those households. The housekeeper generally will stay across generations.
Yeah.
If they're good, and she's probably been updating him, Charlie, along the progress and say, "Oh yeah, India's great," and you know what we're realizing as she gets older, she's a lot like you. She shares the same characteristics and tendencies that you do, and
she looks kind of like a killer. So.
Yeah, she seems like she wants to murder small animals. And to the father's credit, one way to handle that, a child that's maybe not going down the path that you want is to channel that into a different avenue. Take that energy and her tendencies and put it into hunting, and he allows her that creative outlet to do something bad so that you prevent yourself from doing something worse in the future.
Yeah.
But I think that whole connection that they had was just that killer spirit, that psychopathic tendency was passed to her, and her and Charlie are the only two that have it. So he wanted to bond with her.
Well, some of the shots, especially in the beginning with Charlie, it seemed very Lucifer-like, you know what I mean? Like he was like the snake in the garden.
Yeah, he's menacing for sure.
There was just a whole bunch of tension every time he was in a scene. Like, especially because you don't know who he is. He's just standing on some sort of gravestone watching the funeral as it happens.
Yeah.
So I liked how they created a very unnerving feeling every time he was in a scene. Like especially every time he was with a woman, because you're led to believe that this guy has killed the housemaid. And then, eventually,
and then Aunt Jenny.
Yeah, eventually you find out he kills her, but I think you find out the housemaid's head is in the freezer of the house before you know that he kills Aunt Jenny.
I think it's kind of right around the same time.
It's around the same time.
Yeah, it's all kind of...
It's like a sequence.
And that's what I liked about this movie too, is just because it was like it turned you one way and then it turned you the next way. Like it was just tying all these loose ends like left and right. Like it was great.
I really dig the aesthetic throughout the movie too. It's definitely upper crust. It's how the other half lives, and it's funny. There's a little throwaway line when uncle or the father Richard, who's dead through the most movie, you only see him as through flashbacks. He's going to pick up his brother Charlie from this mental institution, and the lady who's escorting him onto the ground says, she says, "Oh, it's been 20 years since your family donated this building to us," and you're like, "Yeah, they're really rich.
Jesus,
they're really rich."
Yeah, well, he said, he can afford an apartment in New York.
Yeah,
for his brother.
For his brother. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I really dig his. If he wasn't well put together, if he was just a sloppy, tousle-haired, unshowered, unkempt Uncle Charlie that walked through the door,
just a creepy Uncle Charlie.
Yeah, you're creepy Uncle Charlie.
He's the bully from It in part 2.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a hilarious Saturday Night Live bit where they talk about sexual harassment at work, and it's Fred Armisen coming on to Tina Fey in a workplace, and he comes in and he's just kind of a weirdo, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? You look great today." And she picks up the phone to call HR instantly, and then Tom Brady walks around the cubicles and says the same thing, except gropes her afterwards. He's like, "Hey, you look great today. Let's go on a date," and then grabs her, and she's like, "Oh, awesome. How about Friday?" And it's like Mathew Goode is a very attractive looking man. He's got his shit together. He's got the nice cashmere sweater and the
tan pants.
Tan pants. He's
the Jaguar.
The drop top Jaguar. The scene when he's following the school bus home from school, and all the girls are
oh my god,
they're like fangirling over him, and and he just looks over. He pulls up next to the bus, and he gives a smile, and all the girls are, oh my god, they all squeal with delight. It cracked me up, but it's like if he was a dumpy 35-pound overweight, unwashed, unwiped, and bedabbled, he would be. He wouldn't have the same. Yeah, he wouldn't have the same welcome from anyone really. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it kind of plays on his sociopathic side too, because he knew like he had to like fit into a certain mold to be accepted.
Patrick Bateman.
Yeah, it was very Bateman-like, for sure.
I wonder how it would have played out if they made his character more likable, like in the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of like us being suspicious of him right away.
Yeah.
Like it was how that bus scene would have played out differently if India was like, she's like, oh, there's my uncle, he's so cool. Like instead of like, oh my god, here's my creepy ass uncle. I also wonder if the whole part of the story where he is in a mental institution, if that was like not part of the story at all, if it was just like he was gone because he had an affair with her mom, and like he has a connection because they're directly related, but she's under the impression that he's her uncle. I wonder how that would have been different.
That is interesting.
Because obviously she has an infatuation with him, Evelyn.
Yeah.
From the get-go,
mm-hmm.
like right away, at the day of the funeral.
You look like my husband.
She's a shitty wife, though. Shitty wife and a shitty mother.
Yeah.
The scene when Uncle Charlie cooks them all dinner, and she's complimenting him on his cooking skills. He's like, oh, I remember when Richard used to do this for me. He used to cook for us, or he used to cook for me all the time like this. Do you remember that, India? And knowing that it was before she was born, and she goes, oh, that's right. That's before you were born. Like, it's been so long since that shithead husband of mine who just died used to cook for me, even though I have no job, sitting at home in this mansion, and waiting on my housekeeper to make me something, which was hilarious when they realized the housekeeper's gone, and she's like, what are we to do?
So when you said something about the aesthetic of the movie, I thought of something, because in this movie Richard is an architect. So
Art Vandelay.
I think that he was, I think the set was purposely designed to be someone who would be an architect, who would have like an upper class home and stuff, like with like the round boulders and like the oversized kitchen chairs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's deliberate, for sure.
And I think it was deliberate because they were just like, yeah, he was an architect, so we're gonna make the house look like an architect's house. I thought that was a nice touch to the character of Richard.
Yeah, it takes you down some interesting scenarios that I don't know about you guys, but I've put myself in a little bit, where the scene when he picks up Uncle Charlie, and Uncle Charlie is really excited to go back to his home with Richard and see India, and he tells him, well, you're gonna go to New York, and here's everything you need, and I'm giving you the Jag that was Dad's. I know that was your favorite car of his, and it's gonna be great. And you are put in this scenario where you're thinking, well, he is family, and shit, that happened 20 years ago. Is it right to hold the sins of your brother against him for that long?
Yeah. He's been in a mental hospital for
hopefully he's better, and maybe he didn't give him the chance, but maybe in those 20 years he's visited him and he knows that he's not any better. It's very clear. When he's getting ready to leave, he speaks with the woman in French, and she goes to give him a hug, and he
backs off.
Yeah, backs off like a caged animal.
Yeah.
And then makes eye contact with his brother and goes, and gives a real sweet embrace.
I'm human.
Yeah. Yes, this is how people react. So, I mean, I know there are times in your life when you may need to cast away the people that are the closest to you, and it hurts the worst to be able to say, that person's family, but this is not only best for me, but best for them. And that's a really hard decision. That's some real life shit that,
very real.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the complexity of that. And then on the complete other end of the spectrum, something that I don't think any of us will ever have to worry about is, being erotically transfixed on the death of my would-be attacker.
That was a weird scene. I mean, it didn't pay off in any way though, because it was just like, so like she is just sexually attracted to murder. Is that like what we're supposed to get at?
I think that the point of it all, and really the plot of the whole movie from Charlie's perspective, is that when he comes back into her life, or comes into her life for the first time, his goal is to unlock the killer inside of her. He wants to share the same blood as her, as he knows that he already does, but he wants to unlock that. So, when he's watching at the school, watching her, almost get into a fight or whatever, he's watching to see what her tendencies are and watching to see how she handles herself. And then when he puts her, or when she's in that position, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but right before she runs off and goes and meets up with Whip, India sees her mother and Uncle Charlie making out in the dining room, and but Charlie gropes her mother's breast, right?
Yeah.
She sees it. She makes eye contact with him. He knows that she's seen it, and then she runs off. Well, when she gets with Whip, and they go off into the wilderness by themselves, they're making out, and India grabs Whip's hand and guides it up to her breast to be groped, just like her mother was from her uncle. So instantly you think, well, she's kind of fantasizing about her uncle in this scenario, which is weird as shit already.
Yeah.
But so Uncle Charlie is there to save the day, but he doesn't exactly save the day. He takes Whip off, ties him up, and then he says, "All right, India, have at it. Do what you want." And I think he wanted to see her kill him. I think he was guiding her hand to say, "You're in a safe place. I understand. Go ahead. He's right there. He deserves it. It's if a guy tries to rape you, what better scenario do you have to justify killing another person than someone who was literally willing to rape you right there in the wilderness and knows he would get away with it?"
So he was kind of trying to be a father figure to Indiana Jones, really. So I completely understand. That's a good perspective I didn't really catch on to. So what I thought was...
Wait.
Huh?
What?
Wait, hold on. So you're saying her name is Indiana Jones and her attacker, his name is Whip?
Ooh.
Exactly.
We just added another layer, boys.
Oh my god.
So I got out of it as that Indiana she was going through her sexual awakening, because Charlie mentions that she is of age, and I know it's probably implied that she's of age to kill, but I think it's like also a double meaning, especially with the masturbation scene. This was her way of, because she had the same thing, like she didn't want to be touched, like she didn't want to be hugged at all. So like her opening up sexually was definitely with the help of her uncle, and those boulders were very round. Okay, so.
Oh, by the way, the boulders are round.
Yeah, they're spherical.
I guess I just couldn't tell what exactly what her inspiration for pleasing herself in the shower was. Was it him? Was it the murder?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Or the stress of it all?
Situation?
Yeah, she's
wound up.
Yeah,
she's wound up tight.
Yeah,
and I think that there's parallels to India to Uncle Charlie throughout the whole movie. When you see the flashback where Charlie kills little Jonathan, buries him alive, and then when Richard comes over to Big Brother Richard comes over to see him, he's doing like snow angels on top of the sand.
Oh yeah. She does the snow angels.
She does that on the bed when no one's around.
That was kind of, now that I think about it, that was like a little like, well, she's just doing snow angels on the bed for no reason.
Yeah.
And then they show that flashback, and it's like,
yeah, she was happy that no one was home. She was running around and she's getting into shit. She went up to go like snoop into Uncle Charlie's bag, and didn't really seem like she had a whole lot of remorse about it either.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that living in a house with a Nicole Kidman mother was probably a little stressful.
I mean, she's also a sociopath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it's. I think if she had a sibling growing up, she also would have killed.
Maybe.
Him.
Possibly.
Going back to the aesthetic of this movie, visually and audio wise, I guess, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Very ASMR.
There was
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of macro audio kind of stuff. But in terms of like the color palette and some of the music, on a Tim Burton scale. So Tim Burton on a Tim Burton scale between 1 and 10, 10 being where Tim Burton is now, and I would put this movie at like a 2 on the Tim Burton scale, because it seemed very like, while it was mostly like, oh, this is happening in reality, like in this world, there are some moments and some shots, especially the wider ones, where it's like, this is very stylistic, and like the color of the walls and the house were it's like a muted tones, kind of like Edward Scissorhands, kind of pastel-y, green walls.
Yeah.
And some of the music was like a little like jingly, almost fantastical. But yeah, I put this on the Tim Burton aesthetic scale of a 2.
What'd you guys think about the piano duet scene, the first piano duet scene?
That's when I thought it was going to be supernatural, because the guy seemingly disappears after it,
like a vampire.
Yeah, I think that's just you could chalk that up to the editing style, because there's a number of scenes where they're at the funeral and you see him talking to the guest, and she's sitting at the bottom of the steps of the stairs, and then cut to he's at the top of the stairs, and all the guests are gone. It's just him. It's hours later, and they just snap to it.
That actually, now that you mention it, that makes sense. I just
Bree made the same connection too, though, because she's like, did that even happen? Was he even ever there? Was there a duet, or she's just
fantasizing?
Yeah,
which is entirely possible. I've seen this movie probably 5 or 6 times, and yeah, I like the visuals of it, and
it's almost like a fairy tale.
And if you're in, and if you're in
Tim
the mood
Burton.
for some good incest,
there's actually no incest.
yeah, it's just stops just shy of it when he almost kisses her before the big climax.
Yeah.
If you want incest, watch Gladiator.
But that whole scene, when I think of this movie, I think of the piano duet scene. It's really well directed. It's really well written, even though there's no scenes dialogue to it.
Yeah.
But you don't need any dialogue. And it's a testament to how well it's directed, because the Wook Park is really getting exactly what he wants out of the actors.
Oh yeah.
In the scene, and a credit to the actors too. Mathew Goode is piercingly cold throughout the entire scene.
Oh yeah.
And he's direct and forceful towards her, guiding her to do exactly what he wants, while she's also just playing along on her own. There's not one word. There's a ton of emotion, and you can see her completely giving into his dominance and feeling his presence, and she's just overtaken by it. Like she's almost having an erotic reaction to it.
And to comment on that as well is, when I was watching the performances of the actors, it seemed like they were evoking emotions like how you would imagine while you were reading a book. Like when I was watching it, I was like, there's specifically some Nicole Kidman scenes. I was like, this is kind of like how I would imagine it in my head it would happen if I was reading this book. Like if Stoker was I think Stoker would be a fantastic book.
Probably.
Because you can go a little bit more deeper into the relationships between everyone. But as a movie, though, I was really blown away by how they didn't need much dialogue to have an impactful scene, like how you knew what was happening.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Like I feel a lot of Old Boy was. There is a lot of dialogue in Old Boy, but the main actor portrays his emotions really well, and the scenarios that he's put into are not traditional in the sense. I don't think anyone who's within earshot of this podcast will ever have to deal with that. If you guys are not familiar with Old Boy, it's a good watch. Do not watch the remake.
The Spike Lee
version. Oh my God!
Is it Spike Lee?
It is. Right? Yeah. Spike Lee directed. Josh Brolin and
such a weird
Samuel L. Jackson lead. Ugh.
Such a weird director to choose to direct that. Josh Brolin?
Yeah,
why Josh Brolin?
Oh my God, I don't know. So please don't go watch that. Go see the original. Any other thoughts you guys had on this?
The scene where I think the reveal of what Charlie, where Charlie was the whole time, I think that was really well done. The way she finds out.
With the letters and then the
letters, and it's like at first the letters are like, I'm in Africa, I'm in whatever.
You really start to believe it at first,
and then she's going up the stairs, and then like from Crawford's Pennsylvania, the Crawford Institute, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and
it's like, wait a minute, what's the Crawford Institute? And they're all from the Crawford Institute.
How'd you feel about those letters, Joe? They were very Tolkien-esque to me. The writing.
Like the way they were written?
The font. Yeah, the font.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was, I think the whole, that sequence of like the letters being read aloud in his voice, and like you see the writing on it. I thought that was kind of cheese. But I think the reveal was nice.
Yeah, I thought as I was seeing the letters kind of get written, I was like, man, that'd be cool to get a handwritten letter on parchment with a sketch on the bottom from a distant relative from around the globe. That'd be pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, about his stay. So he was in there for like 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And looks like they made zero progress.
It wasn't. Tiger never changes its stripes, though. Right?
It wasn't like I said earlier. It beginning of the movie right away. It's like, well, something's wrong with that guy. it doesn't give you a moment, at least a moment of like, oh, he seems normal and fine.
Think to the scene when he's in the Range Rover with Richard and they're next to the river, and he accepts the fact that he's not going to get to see India and he's going to New York. He cranks up the crazy in that scene.
Yeah, he regresses significantly.
Yeah, he does.
A good 4 or 5 notches.
Yeah.
So that the normal parts or the rest of the movie, that is his normal.
I guess, but I mean, he couldn't even pretend like he's a sociopath.
No.
I mean, that scene in the car where he's like, "What do you mean?" Like he's becomes, you like pity him pretty much.
Yeah, he becomes almost
like,
infantilized.
It's almost like, oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
He just wants to see India for whatever creepy ass reason.
Yeah.
And but then immediately it gets goes back to being a creepy Charlie serial killer, Charlie.
That's right.
And I think that whole sequence with the flashback when you realize what he did to get into that mental institution, I was like, whoa, this is super dark now.
Yeah. Yeah, shit got real really quick.
It's almost like I think for this movie, another movie to watch would be We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good pairing.
Another movie about a sociopath family member, serial killer type. And I think that would be a good movie to watch after this.
I got another movie to pair this up with. It's 1956. It's called The Bad Seed. And you guys ever heard of that one?
No.
Nope.
Black and white. It's a mother taking care of her young daughter, and they're both kind of well off, and the daughter is a killer, and the mom doesn't want to accept the fact that she is, and the mother's mother, the grandmother, was a killer as well. So it skipped a generation, went to her daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's there's some iconic scenes in that, and a haunting soundtrack. My mom showed that to me when I was younger, and it still sticks with me.
Nice.
1956, The Bad Seed. If you can catch that one, then the good little girl that plays Rhoda, the killer. She was also in The Master. I don't know what part she was in, but I was looking up her IMDb earlier, and she plays Mildred Drummond, whoever the hell that is.
Mildred
Drummond.
Yeah, the actress's name is Patty McCormick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, do you guys want to throw a rating on this? You got anything else you want to bring up?
Just one last thing is that there's a lot of continuous shots in this movie, and I really am...
Like one takes?
Yeah, just like a lot of one takes. Specifically with the daughter being followed by Charlie. And it was at the... I guess like the funeral party. I don't know what do you call funeral parties? Awake. So yeah, it was at the wake
funeral party.
Yeah.
That's a band.
Hey, I want to invite you guys down to a funeral party. My house later.
At the wake where she's like watching his every move, and like there was definitely one scene where she like walks out of the house and she like walks around.
Watches him through the window.
Yeah, watches him through the window and then walks around and then walks back into the house again. I really love scenes like that. I always think they're really well done, especially with how many extras were in that scene too. Like that was definitely masterclass filmmaking.
Yeah.
She's you can't discredit the weirdness of her too. I mean, you get a skewed version of it because the movie's told through her perspective, so you already instantly she gets a couple plus points from the audience.
Yeah.
for,
excusing the weirdness, but no doubt she is a weird kid.
Yeah,
I think her character was really well written.
Definitely.
Because I think it goes back to because her dad took her hunting the whole time, so her instincts are pretty well
honed.
Polished, well honed hunting instincts. She can like anticipate things happening and she can react accordingly, like with the pencil stabbing in the hand. She has like no fear almost.
Yeah.
She's not intimidated at all by these beta male jock guys.
Beta cocks.
Yeah, so I think everything kind of comes back to her hunting abilities. That she, hunted with her dad and was able to hone these skills. And then the whole the end of the movie, or near the end of the movie, when when the mom is being strangled by Charlie. For a second I was like, she's gonna kill her mom.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's what, for sure.
And then she kills Charlie. But then she goes after that. She becomes now she's a serial killer.
Yeah, she took his place, which is ultimately what Charlie wanted. Maybe not to take her place, but to go alongside him.
Yeah, I guess so. And then the end of the movie was the beginning of the movie.
We've come full circle.
It's a Tarantino movie. It's goes back to those shots, but you see what happened just before. Stabbing a sheriff in the neck with some shears.
Not since Hot Fuzz.
Oh yeah.
Has the audience experienced such brutal neck trauma with garden shears?
Hot Fuzz, one of the best Halloween movies you could watch.
I do like at the very beginning, touching on the full circle thing. She's the first introduction you have to the character. She's smiling. She's smirking. As you see her on the side of the road. You don't know she's on the side of the road, but she's giving her a little introduction about herself. And throughout the whole rest of the movie, the only other smiles that she has are forced on her from her mother.
Yeah.
You see at the end, she's happy. She's where she belongs.
Happy being a sociopath.
Yeah, and who knows how long that's going to last. I mean, you can only kill so many sheriffs before they catch up to you. Yeah. But Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So, you guys want to throw a rating on this, Tyler?
I would give this a 4 out of 5.
Sweet.
Definitely worth the rewatch. I was entertained the whole time, and it's kind of like one of those movies where it's like no matter where it's on, like you're gonna get hooked into it. Like literally at any part you're watching this movie, you're gonna want to watch more of it. So it has a lot of rewatchability, and
as long as you're in the mood for this sort of thing, that day.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a very specific kind of mood movie.
Mm-hmm. See, this would be a good movie to like pick up at a fucking Blockbuster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. A good like random find.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is Wook Park, huh? I like him. He's good.
If only podcasts were in the Blockbuster times.
Blockbuster pick for the week.
Blockbuster find.
Yeah. Joseph, how do you rate this?
I give this. I think I will give this movie a 3 out of 5. I can't imagine myself watching it again. I did enjoy it. It was very entertaining. I like the acting is good. Cinematography, sound effects, sound design, and but there was just a lot of stuff. I think a lot of ideas that they just kind of scratched the surface of, and some ideas that didn't pan out like I thought they would. So I wasn't disappointed. Well, maybe a little bit, but it's not a movie that I think I'll come back to, and I won't not recommend this to somebody, but I won't go out of my way to recommend it. It's a fine movie. It's fine.
Cool.
In my opinion, and it is entertaining and enjoyable, and it has a nice twist, and it's nicely done.
I'm gonna say the first time I watched this, I'd probably give it about a 3.5, and it bumped up to 4 after more viewings. For me, I am eager to go see Handmaiden because I feel like this is a step on a path to a great filmmaker's, catalog. Old Boy was rough and had some great ideas and some really intense scenes that paid off. And this movie had explored some other, like you said, some really interesting concepts that didn't really fully develop. I think upon rewatching, there was more ideas that really were there. It just kind of was, you don't really paying attention until you get into the meat of it. But I'm really excited to see what Wook Park does in the future, and his catalog's already pretty intense. So for me, it's a 4-star movie, and I'm glad you guys found some entertainment out of it. I hope the audience did too.
Oh yeah, it was. I definitely was entertained throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so time for some wheel action, huh?
The Wheel of Destiny.
Wheel of Destiny.
What are you gonna replace your movie with, Pete?
Well, I'm gonna replace Stoker with a movie that's off my radar. I've never seen it, and I ventured to guess that neither of you guys have seen it either. So
that's a bold statement.
Pull this up. Make sure I don't know everything that you have and have not seen.
If you had to guess,
I've had a guess. I'm going to say neither of you guys have seen this movie.
All right.
This is from 1957, The Bridge on the River Kwai.
I have seen this movie.
You have? Oh, good.
Not a long time, but I have.
I have not.
What makes you pick this movie? Is because of Veterans Day?
Because I was watching. I was watching Dr. Zhivago, A Brief Encounter, and A Bridge on the River Kwai, A Lean Night. You guys never seen that video?
No.
I can't.
So it's classic YouTube video of called Unforgivable.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Unforgivable 2. He's talking about what movies he wanted to watch.
There's a second one.
Yeah, I think there's 2 or 3.
Oh, I've only seen the first one.
No, it's that was actually the first time I ever heard that. And the title of that movie was from that stupid YouTube video. But
the first time I heard about Bridge over River Kwai was through Spaceballs, because the Dink Dinks are going dink 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 dink. I'm like, what is that song, Dad? And he's like, that's a song from Bridge over River Kwai. I'm like, what's that? And then we rinsed it.
What movie is that in?
Spaceballs.
Oh, Spaceballs. Gotcha.
The Dink Dinks. they're singing the song in dink dink language. the whistle song.
Well, it's in my blind spot. It's classic cinema. It's got a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, 8.1 on IMDb, and I feel like I think it's in the top AFI's top 100 movies of all time.
Oh.
I think it's up there. William Holden, Alec Guinness, which is funny because he was original Obi-Wan Kenobi. Jack Hawkins. I don't think there's any other names in here that I really recognize, but and unfortunately for everyone listening, it's only streaming on Fubo, those bastards. So sorry to do this to you guys. If we land on it again, it might be one that we may have to watch, or we can come over to my house and I have a copy.
Nice.
Of the movie. Physical copy.
That's a negative, Ghost Rider. So recapping what we have on the wheel for Joseph, we have The Machinist and From Beyond, and his wild card pick is Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. Tyler has Mr. America, The Blair Witch Project, and Escape from New York, which is his wild card pick. And I have They Look Like People and The Bridge on the River Kwai. So, time to spin the wheel.
Oh, I'm so excited. What is it going to be?
Wheel of Destiny.
What is it going to be? What is it going to be?
And From Beyond.
Yeah.
Hey!
There we go.
I have this on DVD.
Oh, you do? Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Can you want to give us a quick recap of From Beyond, Joseph?
Oh my gosh, I was not prepared for this. I watched it a few weeks ago. So it's a movie made in 1986, directed by Stuart Gordon. He did the Reanimator series, I think. This movie is gross. It's practical effects galore. It's really great in that aspect. It's the plot synopsis is a group of scientists have developed a machine called the Resonator, which allows whoever is within range to see beyond normal perceptible reality. But it's almost like another dimension that when they turn this machine on, it kind of alters your, I don't want to say DNA, but it changes things, and it basically there's a element of this machine that basically makes everyone hella horny.
So they essentially give them
really?
it's essentially a puberty machine then.
No, there's no kids in this movie. But
wow,
yeah,
that's funny. I didn't expect that. It makes it pretty horny, huh?
The writers are H.P. Lovecraft, who wrote the short story.
No shit.
Brian Usna, who did what did he do? He did Bride of Reanimator. Oh, he wrote Bride of Reanimator. He directed Society, which is another great movie. But yeah, so From Beyond, sci-fi.
Anywhere?
Is it? Let's see. It's on Vudu. Oh, Pluto. It's on Pluto.
With ads, sweet.
Yeah, you can rent it on Amazon, $4.
Just from the little bits that I'm seeing in this, like the thumbnails from the trailers, it looks gross.
Yeah, it is gross.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
But it is a fun movie. Well, I don't know about fun. It's actually not fun. It is gross. It is very gross. But it's good. It's good. Good practical effects. If you're really into that stuff.
H.P. Lovecraft. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
All right. So for all our fans out there who are on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/MCFC podcast. Send us an email, mcfcpodcast@gmail.com. We're still looking for any fan art, letters to the show, what you like, what you don't like, movie recommendations that you may want to have for us. This is a two-way street. And if you do send us an email, there's a good likelihood we will read it on air. So far, the only emails we have in our email box are confirmation of email from Pluto and Fubo that they received our ticket and have not responded. So next week, Joseph will lead the show, and we'll be reviewing From Beyond. Watch it from now until then, and follow along with us. Until next time, thanks for listening.
See you later.
See you later, dudes.
Bye, guys.